You're tuned into news across the galaxy where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
On Saturday, April 13th, 1996, I was present for the beginning of the journey for two MLS clubs from the two biggest metropolitan areas in the United States. At the time, the future was wide open for both clubs, being from regions that are home to multiple championships across a wide sporting spectrum. Both clubs seemed destined for glory at some point or other. But a journey that began in 96 saw LA Galaxy and the former New York, New Jersey Metro Stars take very different paths. While Galaxy went through some peaks and valleys, the Metro Stars had to deal with the curse of Caricola, a change in ownership and a major rebrand, and until now, only one trip to MLS Cup in 2008. Can LA Galaxy rise back to the throne, or will we see the Bulls on parade? To help us prepare for MLS Cup 2024 and give us the Red Bull New York perspective, please welcome to the show Bob Ventimiglia, co-host of the Designated Pundits and Bet US TV MLS expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Bob.
Of course, Edgar. Thank you guys for having me. It's always great to be on. Nice Thursday afternoon talking soccer, and two teams who did not see themselves being here in February. That's absolutely for certain. But two teams that I think the writing might have been on the wall for at different points of the season. So it's going to be interesting. And finals, throw everything else out the window. Throw everything out. This playoffs has been a bit crazy anyway, but everything goes. And 90 minutes. That's all that matters. Nothing that happened up to this point matters. Nothing that happens after this point matters. It's going to be a great game, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Sorry about that. You talk about the psyche of both fan bases, and you have an LA Galaxy fan base that on the outside, MLS fans are probably like, oh, these guys are spoiled. They won all these cups. They've had all this glory, but it's been 10 years since anything. Some of the shine was taken away when the noisy neighbors up the road came back into the league, because we know this is like their second iteration. And so it's been a while, especially for some of the younger Galaxy fans, some of the ones that joined in the years since 2014. They've never experienced what it is to win a championship, or the excitement, the sense of anticipation that leads up into that. But who am I to talk about what it feels like not to win something in a long time, when you have the Red Bull fans who have been through such a crazy topsy-turvy existence in their club's culture? I mentioned the curse of Caricola. For a lot of people that don't know, can you explain what happened with that?
Yeah, it was a little bit before my time. I think I was in 96, where I would have been third grade, fourth grade, something like that. Uh, Soccer's coming to New York. It's hyped up. Everyone hears about it. You got to watch this game. It's going to be fantastic. It was a 0-0 draw until an own goal by Caricola in very late in the game, and ended 1-0. New York did not have its introduction into soccer as one might expect, and it's kind of lived in legend as the reason why soccer maybe hasn't taken root in New York as much as some of the other places. There's obviously a lot to do here, a lot of sports teams, and a million and a half excuses as to why attendance isn't packed in every single match, although we're in a fantastically huge market. That is the scapegoat. I don't believe it anymore, but it is what it is. It's something you gotta wear on your back. And anytime you go that long, 96 to 28 years without a trophy, you're gonna look for excuses. You're gonna look for a curse, and that's what we talk about. That's what we point to.
So I'm really curious to know, because you mentioned about the popularity of the sport in the region. How do you go from having tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 people pack Giant Stadium to watch Pelé and and the Cosmos in the 70s and 80s, right? Well, to the early 80s. To I mean, I hate to say it. Sometimes we see highlight scenes at Red Bull Arena, and it's like half full. It's a beautiful arena. I've heard the location is a little difficult to get to for some people, but how do you go from one thing to the other? And how come the Red Bulls have had such a hard time recapturing that magic, that spark that the Cosmos had?
Yeah, so I mean, there's 100 reasons. I think Mark Fishkin keeps a running tally. I think they're up to somewhere in the 150s of reasons why it hasn't happened. And people like to speculate, and maybe it's a little bit of everything. We're in a great area. My own hometown. Any food you want, there's a restaurant for you. If you want to go to a club, there's a club. If you want to go to a dance hall, anything you want, live music venues, they have it there. That's kind of where we are on the East Coast. We're a little bit spoiled like that, and there's a lot to do on any given night. It's very hard to get a huge amount of people in one place. A lot of it also has to do with diversity. A lot of people watch leagues outside of Major League Soccer, which I do understand, a connection to home, but you got to watch live soccer where it is. It doesn't matter if your team's, USL to a 12th, 15th division. You catch live soccer when you can. So there's a lot of excuses out there. I think currently this current roster hadn't played very well, and there aren't a lot of players that connect with the team. Transportation is fine. I drive into the match in a parking deck nearby. It's always been fine to me. I can understand someone for the first time might have a bad experience. There's also a PATH station right there. The PATH is like a Port Authority special train that runs just from Newark, Harrison, under the Hudson into New York City. So that is a brand new multi-million-dollar station there. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of excuses. Quite honestly, it's just you're not entitled to eyes, no matter who you are. And as might as I might yell at you, they failed to connect with an audience. For example, like when Nani went to Orlando, their stadium is seated in a section of Harrison with a huge Portuguese audience. How do you miss on that? How do you miss on that? You need to know who's living right there, literally walking distance. It is blocks away from a huge row of Portuguese restaurants. It's a huge cultural center. It's been stuff like that all along the way. And I do have to point out, though, that it is a little over exaggerated. I've been to every stadium, and here's the thing: you get it. You're from LA. If the game kicks off at 7, the people are not in the seats until 7:45. That is the way things go. It's not only a traffic thing; it's also a local New York thing. I don't need to show up on time. I paid you. You didn't pay me. I'm going to show up when I want. There's tailgates going on that wrap up very, very late. And then you see a storm of people coming at 7 o'clock to the gates, and it takes a few minutes to get through. So all the doom and gloom about attendance and engagement, of course, I wish it was better. I wish that we had 60,000 people in the stadium each and every week, but that's not what it is. Of course, when you have little brothers, those little blue twerps you got to flick off your shoulder, they will go in, and they're seated a half hour before the game starts, and they'll start clicking pictures. Oh, look, everyone, no one's here. It's not, well, yeah, no kidding. No kidding. We're going to start for another, 25 minutes. So, yeah, it's never what you want it to be. You want everyone you talk to, you want to be a Galaxy fan, right? You want everyone to be engaged with the sport that you love. So, no, I'm not happy about it, but I do think that there's a reasonable expectations and reasonable explanations for some of it too.
Well, let's take a step back a bit and tell us about yourself. Tell us about the Designated Pundits podcast and how you got, well, first of all, how you got into the sport. And secondly, what encouraged you to start your podcast?
Yeah, it's great. So, wow, where do I start? Little Bobby was not a very athletic kid, was not fast or aggressive. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I'm like 6'2", 185, but entering my sophomore year in high school, I was only 5'4", had that very late growth spurt, was never athletic as a kid. So I would be sports adjacent. I had a lot of friends who played soccer growing up. In Clifton is a very interesting place. It's a huge city, thousands and thousands of people. in a suburb, very nice suburb of New York City. And it's a very diverse town, but it's also kind of segregated. Any ethnicity, different styles of soccer, any park you go to, there's different people playing, and you know how it is from different parts of the world. It's the same sport, but there's different flavors, and that's kind of the environment I grew up in. And I played soccer. I played Clifton Stallions, and there's one very famous man. His name is Giuseppe Rossi Sr., who was an Italian teacher in Clifton High School, the town I grew up in, and ended up, having some influence on the coaching and the formation of soccer in this general area. His son, of course, came up through that system, someone who I've kicked the ball with myself when I was about big and not very good. He was fantastic, went on to play at Villarreal, the Italian national soccer team, which, was a mistake, should have been an American the whole time. No bitterness there. And yeah, we have a lot of famous soccer players who've come through Clifton High School. I played with Jonathan Barajo, who was in Miami Fusion last I knew, but he played a season with Red Bull and bounced around the league a little bit. And I guess the current big name is Matt Miazga, who was a Clifton High School sports guy. Played for the school team. So I grew up in that really rich environment. Was not athletic myself. Took the other route. I went into music. And in college, one of my closest friends took a semester abroad in Manchester, came back with a renewed love of soccer. And from that point on, I guess that would have been 2006 or 7. The next few years of college, we got out to a couple games. And our first year in the real world with real jobs, we said, hey, these Red Bull tickets are cheap enough. Let's get into the season ticket holder package. We did that, and the rest is history. As for podcasting, I started out with a fantasy football podcast. I'm a big NFL guy. And over the years, things just kind of developed, and we said, we spend all this time on NFL, but MLS is such a small market. There's not a lot of people podcasting for it. Why not talk about that too? We're already season ticket holders. We already know probably as much as anyone else. So we started down this road. He has long since departed the podcast, and I've kind of kept it going with different partners throughout the years. Right now, there's 3 of us, me, my co-host Alex, who is a other Red Bull season ticket holder, and my co-host Scott, who you guys might know a little more recently. He's an RSL guy from Real Salt Lake, and he, we met online and said, hey man, let's come talk soccer. And, he was so good. We just kept it going. So that is kind of how we got started. And when last year, we've been pretty serious in doing the sports betting thing. Last year when Messi came, we said, okay, we got to take this a little more seriously. So we went from once a week, whenever, to clockwork, Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, doing the sports betting and the recaps. And then one day I woke up and there was a message in my inbox from BetUS, and they said, hey, we've seen your stuff. We want you to come and start an MLS show with us. So, I accepted an offer with them, and it's been 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week ever since. Really cool group of podcasters over there, and they cover any soccer league you watch. They have some really, really great and entertaining hosts there. So it's just glad to be a part of that this year. And once Red Bull started winning games in the playoffs, my inbox started getting full, and that's when me and Edgar were brought out to all these podcasts together. I think we've done the network over the past 2 or 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So let's turn the attention back to the Galaxy and the Red Bulls, and let's talk about something that both fan bases can relate to, because forever and ever, MLS, it's been, it was LA Galaxy, and then out of nowhere we had Chivas USA, which was a very niche experiment, I felt. Galaxy practically beat them into extinction, and then 2 years later, Don Garber gave them a phoenix down, and they came back to life and as LAFC. And but right before LAFC, something funny happened across the country, and Don Garber brought NYCFC into existence. And I know it's a very heated rivalry, but how did you feel when the league announced that they're bringing another team into the New York metropolitan area, did you feel betrayed or did you feel like it made sense?
I definitely didn't feel like it made sense. I mean, you talk about attendance, and while I would push back on anyone saying Red Bull are struggling, that's certainly not the case. We're not full either, and that opening did take away some fans. And the silliness of it all is everyone who went to that team said we are going because we can't support a team that doesn't play in New York proper, and now they're playing in a baseball stadium, which is anything but proper for the league, and having to put up with that for years and years and years. Of course, they've played at Red Bull Arena a lot of times, and the fans gave so much pushback that one time they went as far as Hartford to host a home match when their stadiums were not taken. Of course, playoff time is one of the most difficult times for them, as because playoff baseball, playoff soccer, the end of the season, these things are a little unpredictable. So, there's that. In the end, I don't feel like I need to justify it to anyone. It was silliness, but we know other teams like Manchester who have a big red and blue rivalry going on, and it feels a little bit like that. We can talk about some issues with NYCFC and problematic uh, things that have gone on with that club. It's just interesting to see an expansion in a market that didn't necessarily need one.
Well, and then on top of that, after all the years of struggling to find relevancy, not just in the East but in MLS in general, as a perennial contender, you have these guys go ahead and they win the damn cup, right? And then they put up a postage stamp trophy at Yankee Stadium. I mean, all of
Yeah,
this must have really bugged you, right?
I mean the
I mean,
cup
I don't mean to needle you, but I'm
made
just saying, right?
the cup was the COVID Cup. That was a very difficult year. The Eastern Conference Final of that year, if I remember, I believe it was Philadelphia or New England. I think it was Philadelphia had 7 players missing on the COVID
Yeah.
list for that match, and you get hot and you push through. They had a fantastic squad that year, but who knows through the course of a regular season if they would have been built for something else. But that they play a different brand of ball. They can't play in real stadiums. They're so used to playing in that little mini pitch where the grass tears right up under your feet. We're not fooling anyone, right? Like everyone knows that is not a legal size field, no matter how many times they measure it. I don't know what kind of yardstick they're using on that one, but it's gross. It's terrible sight lines. It's a bad experience. Security issues all the time. But they can have that. You can have your Proud Boys marching outside as a supporters group. I
Hmm.
don't want any part of that. I'll go hang out in Red Bull Arena outside of New York. Guess what? I'm not a New Yorker. I'm from New Jersey too, and it's a great place. Great history of soccer here. And if we look at American soccer, it's really New Jersey, Kearney,
Carney,
Clifton,
yeah.
like that really have the connection with Harrison and not New York City. It is what it is, and we knew that there wouldn't be real estate there. Jets and Giants tried for years to build a stadium there. There was nothing available, so we kind of knew that project was going to be a failure. And it looks like they're getting a stadium now. I think they're charging people already. Today, emails went out charging people their seat fees or whatever it was, deposits now. It is what it is. Who cares?
So for Galaxy fans and other MLS fans that are unaware, can you please like, try to make sense of this Red Bull New York season because it's been so up and down, and then down the stretch, I think it was like what a stretch of like 8 games. The Red Bulls only won 2 games, but a ton of draws. How was this season, and how did it? Was it confusing to you? Did it make sense?
Yeah, it 100% made sense to me. I'm a pretty realistic person, and the fact that I work in the betting space means that I need to kind of put a lot of biases aside sometimes. And when your team's good, you say they're good and you bet on them because they're good. And when your team's bad or going through a slump, you need to back off and kind of know what to expect there too. But this was really the story of 2 seasons: 8 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses to start out the season. They were first place in the East for a very long time. And even when things got bad, it was draws and not losses that really kind of pushed the news story for Red Bull. So, at the beginning of the year, we looked like world beaters. Hey, we made a lot of changes this offseason. We brought in some guys, Noah Isla, Emil Forsberg, and they started out really hot. That cooled off with an Emil Forsberg injury, but it's worth stating, kind of breaking down those stats. Without Emil Forsberg playing at least a half of play, meaning 45 minutes or longer, Red Bull is 2 wins, 11 draws, and 7 losses on the season. With Emil Forsberg, 10 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses. If they had Emil Forsberg for the whole course of the season, we're talking a very different outcome. And it's not only because of him, it's because of the leadership he brings, but also letting everyone else play in their natural positions. All of a sudden, you have this number 10 who's missing. He's hurt. He can't play. You got other people trying to carry a load in other parts of the field. You'll find out more about that this weekend. And having someone who has that big of a swing, Emil Forsberg, 2.13 points per game when he's in the lineup, 0.85 points per game when he isn't. He's huge. That is bigger than Lucho Acosta. That is bigger than Evander, maybe not bigger than Evander, as big as Evander for Portland, and he should be considered amongst that company. He is a pro's pro. He's done it in every level. He's played and scored in the World Cup, played and scored in the Euros, played and scored in Champions League. He's done it all. So I think people overlooking him because he missed so much of the season. Now you need to take a look. Now you need to get some film and know what you're really up against, because this guy changes the game when he's there. You cannot write him off that easily. We're talking pinpoint passes and just reading the play. He doesn't have to be fast. He pops up on the field where he needs to be because he sees the game in another dimension. Just a fantastic player that I really can't talk up enough. This is a much different team than the team that finished the season. We won 3 out of our last 10 matches, and 2 of them were against Toronto. I keep hearing that stat thrown in my face. Yeah, that's absolutely true, but that's not the best iteration of this squad. You've seen the best iteration now, the one that beat Columbus, the one that beat New York in New York, not easy to do, and the one that took it to Orlando. That is the squad that's going to be showing up this weekend, and that's a much different ballgame.
So my introduction to Emil Forsberg was all that really controversial stuff that started circling around toward the
Yeah.
beginning of the season. Can you shed some light on that without making it too weird?
I spoke to Emil before the season started at a Red Bull media event. We asked him, how's everything going? I asked him about the transfer. First of all, he's the most calm and soothing person you've ever spoken to. He doesn't have a lot of fire about him. He's soft-spoken. And he just said, it was time for another challenge. And then people were asking him, oh, do you think it's because you can win? Can you extend your career here? He's like, no, it was just time to challenge myself. I need to step outside the box, play somewhere new. People started asking him personal questions. He just said, we're looking for places. Hopefully the kids will come over in a few weeks, and we can get settled. But I need to do this for myself. I need to get settled here first. And then 2 weeks later, we heard some news stories that I can't really confirm or deny. I do believe he was separated from his wife, and she posted on social media that he abandoned their family, something like that. And you're left to decode whether it's speculation or trouble that someone's putting all on the other person when maybe there's always 2 sides to every story. My whole thing is I care about these guys from a soccer perspective. I want to know if he's hurt, if he's going to play, and if I can bet on the team to win some money. That's in the end what I care about. Of course, you want to know that his kids are taken care of, and that that part of everything is fine. I don't think that there's anything in his character and in his past that would point to abandonment or anything like that. So I can't speak directly about his past or personally about his character, just about his demeanor. And what I do know that he had said it to me at the beginning of the season.
That kind of echoes what Mark Fishkin told us, because we spoke to him earlier in the season. I'm sorry, during the playoffs, and he mentioned that Forsberg is one of those people that's able to separate his personal life from his footballing life, and that they really don't impact each other that much. So it kind of makes sense to you just told us. Um, so you have Emil Forsberg join the team, and at the start of the season. But what really turned things around for the Red Bulls? Because yeah, I know you've mentioned that they made some additions, they made some changes, and then of course your new manager. Can you shed more light on that too?
Yeah, so I mean, eventually this squad has become the way they are because of individual player improvements, which is something you see under the best managers. I'm not a firm believer. I'm an educator, right? That what you get is the final package at any stage in life, right? I took college classes with people who were 85 and just, yeah, I want to learn something new. That's the way players are, and good coaches can pick up on that from players. So we have this base of New York homegrown type players, Sean and Dylan Nealis, John Tolkien, Daniel Edelman, Cameron Harper. And the back line has always been fantastic. They've always been a top defense in Major League Soccer. Edelman and Harper have stepped up this year, playing great midfield. Cameron Harper still got Facundo Torres in his pocket, I think, from last weekend. Then there are players that we've made some smart signings. Lewis Morgan, what a steal. Any player, any team in Major League Soccer should want his number. Had a terrible, terrible injury last year, came back, and he's faster than he was 2 seasons ago. And then you got guys like Dante Van Zier, a designated player from Belgium. Didn't quite settle in last year with the squad, had faced some adversity, accusations of racist language on the field, big suspension and a team suspension after that. Came back, never caught his stride, got high load before the end of the playoffs and broke something in his back. He came back near full strength at the beginning of this year. Still hasn't really put it together like a striker. Looks more like a winger. Has had a bunch of assists. The team plays better when he's on the field, but the goals stats aren't there, which you always want from a number 9. So those two guys are paired up top. And then Emil Forsberg, obviously, we talked a little bit about what he brings. Noah Ayla came with him. And before that, we had Dylan Nealis and John Tolkien on the outside with Kyle Duncan once in a while. And Sean Nealis, Andre Reyes at center back. Those are two great center backs with height, with size, with everything you're going to look for in Major League Soccer. We got Noah Ayla, who's like a 6'4" player, also from Sweden, same home club, I believe, as Emil Forsberg. And he's young. He is extremely talented at the center back position, but he's certainly not without mistakes. Made a couple of made one red card, pulling a guy down from behind on a breakaway, like touching a ball with his hand that he couldn't get to with his head. Yeah, okay, these things happen. He has a bright, bright future ahead of him, and besides being big and quick, he also is very good at distributing out of the back. Probably the best long passer on the team. Not that we saw that coming. And he's someone who loves, to pick up a ball, kind of like play a little sweeper and just send it upfield. We're not playing a midfield when he's on the, right over the top, and yeah, he's done fantastically. And Carlos Cornell, who as a goalkeeper, I know someone you want to talk about a little bit later. He's been a little better every year, and he's been about as advertised. And as advertised was, hey, here's a DP goalie that we can get without paying a DP price. So that's how the team is built right now. There's a few other contributors here and there. There aren't many like super subs that you're going to need to know about, just role players who can come in and swap out. The whole thing about the Red Bull system, they are a high pressing team. It's very much built on strategy, and if someone goes down, with a very few exceptions, the next player is supposed to step right in and keep going. That's kind of the Red Bull way. That's the way the academy plays. We've had for years, academies that mirror the way that the pro team plays in, style and function. It's been an exciting project, but we always knew they were good. That was never part of the question. And now with the roster build that they have, it's all looking up.
What were the expectations going into the playoffs? Because, like you said, the team went from battling for the top of the East, and then they just kind of fell off at the end, but still got in. And so, did you have tempered expectations heading into the playoffs, especially because look who you're matched up against, right? Wilfred Nancy and the defending champions and Columbus Crew.
it's a yes and a no. This team is built to beat any team in Major League Soccer. That is what they are built for. And they don't do it all the time, of course. But of all of the teams in Major League Soccer, there are a few that you don't want to play. You don't want to play the Galaxy. Generally, you don't want to play LAFC. We match up pretty well against Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati might scare you. Miami is going to scare you because they have a lot of offense. Red Bull's right up there. They're just going to beat good teams sometimes. There's no free wins with this squad. They've put up a lot of stinker performances this year, but they've beaten a lot of really good teams too. And it's throughout the course of the season, they'll pull these random, stretches where all of a sudden they're beating winning teams. They beat Cincinnati twice. They beat Orlando. They beat Charlotte by 3 goals that's a team that generally plays very defensive ball. They've gotten a 4-0 shutout of Inter Miami. They beat FC Dallas by 2 goals. They beat Houston Dynamo in Houston. These are things that are very difficult for any team to do, and Red Bulls have been doing them consistently. So again, the end result, if you look at the win-loss record, that does not tell the story of this team. I was not optimistic by any means heading into the playoffs, but knowing that each and every match is going to be a battle, why not us? That's kind of the call for this offseason, is that there is no reason why they cannot be where they are. They've beaten good teams all year long. That's what they are built for. And, it's not sexy, but it's a style. And I kind of see a lot of Major League Soccer teams kind of splitting up between, system teams and talented teams, like, teams that bring in the highest level players. This is a system team with a couple of very, very talented players on them. And that's going to make them a hard out each and every week.
So we mentioned Carlos Coronel. How does he stack up to some of the best goalkeepers in Major League Soccer? And should Galaxy be concerned with his performance?
Well, he's still here. That's part of it. I guess he's one of the 2 best goalkeepers to push their team into winning positions. The life of a goalkeeper is very difficult because you make an error and everyone sees it. You make a great save, everyone sees that too. You're only in the news for 2 reasons when you're a goaltender, right? Like that. There's 2. It's you did something good or you did something bad. Cornell's been defined when he first came to the team by a few mistakes he made. Bad errant back passes, really confusing stuff where maybe he didn't clear it far enough and immediately got struck back, gave up some really easy goals, lost some games for us right away. And I think that might be in some people's memory more than the good things. Solid goalkeeper performances are very rarely memorable. It's the extraordinary good and the extraordinary bad that our brains kind of pick out. So Cornell has been very good, tactically sound, with a few errors. Very good in penalties, 3 in a row saved up against Columbus, which is quite a good team at that. So I think that he can make good saves. He'll get screened once in a while. He does have these 2 pillars in front of him, that he's not always in the best position to see your view save. I remember like a couple of like low outside bottom left corner shots going past him that maybe he could have got into. So he's not the world beater you might have heard if you just watched him in the playoffs this year, but he's very, very solid. Having a good defense in front of him certainly helps with that. Having structure in the defensive form and facing a lot of low percentage shots, that's always great. And when your team is winning aerials, defending corners, it just makes your life a lot easier, right?
Absolutely. So Galaxy goes from one decent goalkeeper, from a great goalkeper in Seven Fright to another good goalkeeper in Coronel. Something to look out for Galaxy fans. So let's dive more into this match. Obviously, the big news out here in LA is the injury to Ricky Puig. It's something that has been discussed ad nauseum. So we're not gonna really tread too much into it. Obviously, it affects the way that Greg Vanney has to set up his team in preparation for MLS Cup. We've seen LA Galaxy perform well without Ricky Puig, especially in the middle of the season during a time. A, it was a time of transition, I guess, a time of transformation for this club because LA Galaxy was doing fine. They were doing good, and Ricky Puig was in there doing his thing. He was running around, and for a lot of us that really pay very close attention to his performances, we were noticing that he would try to do a lot. He was a lot of people were accusing him of not accusing him, but they were just saying, he's trying to be the hero. He's trying to do hero ball. He's trying to do too much. It kind of went with the whole. Uh, his whole mentioning at the start of the season that he wanted to be the league MVP. He wanted to do a lot of great things for the club. And so for him to want to take all this responsibility onto himself and try to carry the team, that's fine. But, he's still young. He's he was prone to make mistakes. I feel like we got a diamond in the rough and we're watching him go through an evolution. But then he got hurt. And it was while he got hurt that LA Galaxy needed to look at the midfield, which is now very deep compared to what it was like, in the years past. And they called up on players like Diego Fagundes and Mark Delgado, and of course Edwin Cerrillo to try to fill that gap. And we saw this LA Galaxy team perform well without Ricky Puig. And this is around the time when Gabriel Peck started getting fed. They started feeding the ball to him and he started scoring goals and he hasn't looked back. And I'm guessing that during this time, Bandy was telling Puig, hey, look, see, it works. The system works. Now we need you to come in and apply yourself and make it part of who you are. Obviously, it didn't happen right overnight. It didn't happen right away. After going on a 4-game winning streak, Galaxy lost to LAFC at the Rose Bowl. But since then, we've seen Ricky Puig kind of assimilate into the system. He still does his things. He still takes shots from the outside. He still makes amazing passes and he'll score goals. But now you don't see him trying to do everything on his own. Marco Roche coming into the team helped that, and it also brought a calming presence to Puig, which we discussed before. But and then you get to the playoffs. Galaxy is running roughshod. They run into a staunch Seattle defense, and of course, Ricky Puig gets injured, manages to continue playing the rest of the match, gets the assist on the game-winning goal, and then almost immediately after, we start seeing news that something's not right. Following day, of course, we all find out, he's hurt, and not only that, he's gonna need surgery, and he's gonna be out for a long time, and he's gonna miss MLS Cup. So. Uh, that's one thing. And the other thing is Marco Royce picked up on knock. And we heard that he's dealing with a groin injury, that he's been in training. Uh, but they're trying to be very gentle, very careful with him because the groin injury is something that you never know when it's going to bite you. I mean, you feel fine, and you try to run away and explode, and all of a sudden you feel that pain, and it gives you pause.
Sure.
And of course, the other guy that's been out for a really long time, obviously, is Cáceres, who our center back, who we mentioned. We're probably not going to see him in a Galaxy uniform next year, but he was important to his club at the start of the season. Um, Now, Bob, what can you tell us from the Red Bulls? Because I was listening to you go rattle off all these different names about it's like a weird triage center, right? There's a bunch of injuries, people coming in, coming out. You don't know who's going to play. Can you give us more of an insight into that?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that the injuries issues with Red Bull are mostly over. There are players that are going to be unavailable, but there's nothing catastrophic. I'm trying to pull up the best I have right now. Felipe Carballo, we don't know what his availability is going to be for this match, and that's really the big one. We didn't need a center defensive midfielder. We needed a striker. And what do we get? A center defensive midfielder. And then it turns out we did need him because he's been absolutely fantastic, scoring an early goal in, I believe it was New York in that match. It's going to be interesting. I think we kind of know what is going on, but it really depends on the formation. Red Bull had played a 4-man back line and then switched to a 3-man back line for the middle of play, and that has gone from carrying Sean Nealis as a wing back, fullback, or Kyle Duncan, who's going to be out as a fullback, to just having three back, and then John Tolkien on one side, Harper on the other. Harper has absolutely stepped into that role and been fantastic. We don't know what they're going to do against the LA Galaxy. I have no idea if it's going to be back to a 4-man back line, a 3-man back line. I think it's a little more difficult on the coaches because I think when you plan for Puig, you know what you're getting. And I think that Schwartz was going to come out with a new plan, a new game plan, something that was going to be focused on taking Puig out of the game. And now there's a lot more question marks. And as to where I think the game was going to start on an even slate with Schwartz showing his hand first, now I think Schwartz needs to come up with a game plan, but really it's Vanny who's going to come out and try something new, and Schwartz who needs to make the adjustment. So I think that, all playoff long, Red Bulls have, tried a new formation, tried a new tactic, done something experimental, done something, novel to the team, and force the other coach to make the adjustment. But I think Sandro Schwartz might be the one needing to make the adjustment in this match. As it comes to Puig, I do want to touch on it just a little bit. I think that those 3 games in the middle of the season that he missed with injury, you throw those out. Those go right down the toilet. There's no reflection on reality in that. Yeah, they beat RSL 1-0 on the road, but that RSL team had just sold their best player, Andre Gomez. They were not returning to form. They were not looking good, and they haven't been the same since. And then between that, you have NYCFC and Sporting KC in Galaxy. Those are games you need to roll over. I don't care if you pull supporters out of the stadium and put them in jerseys. Those are teams you got to beat at home, and I don't care who's on the field for it. I think that we're looking more closer to the 2-1 LA Galaxy loss to St. Louis with Puig once he was acclimated fully to this offense. So I worry about player availability for Galaxy and not for the Red Bull. Of course, Carballo would be a fantastic addition, a player we didn't have and apparently didn't need in Orlando.
Okay, thank you so much, Bob. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about Greg Vanney, LA Galaxy manager, who came back to the club as known as Bob the Builder. He had a lot of success with Toronto FC and making him one of the better clubs in MLS history. Sorry, my dog over here is excited.
You said the word. You said it.
Yeah.
The LAFC.
Yeah. But Greg Vanney, a lot of people may not remember unless you're not really paying attention, but he used to be he was one of the original G's. He played with the club from 96 until 2001, after which he went to go play in France in Ligue 2. But he was there in 96 when Galaxy lost to DC United. He was there in 99 when they lost again to DC United. And he was there for the heartbreaker when they lost to Dwayne De Rosario and San Jose Earthquakes in 2001. So Vanney has never had a chance to win an MLS Cup with LA Galaxy. And just wondering if that's a burning on the back of his mind. Of course, Red Bull has never won an MLS Cup, but something really cool happened. We heard that the Red Bull front office went ahead and did something fantastic for their supporters. I can tell you about it, but Bob's here. Hey, Bob, can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I can't tell you a ton because I can't make the trip myself, but 700 tickets were allocated for Red Bull supporters, and they're bringing a lot of players from people from their front office. I know a lot of academy kids who are going to be making the trip there this week, and they're giving a small travel stipend. Unfortunately, with the cost of airfare, it's only a little tiny bit, but it's so much appreciated for people who are making the trip out. It's not new. Red Bull has done this for a lot of playoff matches. I remember when we played in DC in RFK Stadium, the buses and the tickets were free. Just show up and we'll ship you down there, which was always a fantastic time. Love traveling, did it a bunch of times with ESC for those matches. And, hats off to them. They get it. They're really, paying the fans back. And this is nothing new. Like, I've been a season ticket holder for 12 years, and I have never maybe once or twice, like lost money on those tickets. They bring Arsenal in the middle of the summer and they let us buy the tickets first. So I have 10 Arsenal tickets, and you make $50 each, and now you paid for your season ticket. So they've always had these little things with Miami, Inter Miami. Now your Inter Miami ticket alone, you could sell it for $700. The season ticket only costs $400. You're good. You're already making that money. So they've been smart in treating people who've been season ticket holders for a long time very well. If you wanted to, you could sell a couple games, make some cash, and when those summer friendlies come around, like they always do, you could pay out big. So front office has always gotten the supporters like that, and if you're in the know, you're in the know. You know how to work that system well. So yeah, hats off to them. It's going to be fantastic. There's going to be a lot of support for Red Bulls in Galaxy. Now I know some of the guys who are going. You got some loud mouths going. It's going to be
Nice.
Intense time. So much so that they need to go in by 10:30 in the morning into the stadium. So it's going to be bumping. It's going to be great, and I'm just going to keep an eye on everyone there for sure.
So we're going to keep an eye out for Viking supporters, right? For Empire SC, and what are the other groups?
Well, ESC is the longest and largest supporters group. They have Viking Army, named after I forget the coach that we had at the time. And that's a really, really fun group. Those are guys who really, really know how to party, get the big Viking helmets, a couple kegs every tailgate. That's kind of the wild show. Those are guys that we love partying with, the Scots American Club over there. And the other group was called the GSU Ultras. I believe they've disbanded. Now there's another group that looks a lot like them that shows up in the same section. I believe they call themselves Torcida 96. I don't know what that means. And I haven't spoken quite to anyone about it. So I'm sure they'll be representing with some big numbers there. That's a smaller group, guys who like to get into extracurricular activities in the stands with some opponents there. You remember the NYCFC fight where you saw a sandwich board infamously fly through the air and hit an opposing member? Yeah, that was those guys. And they've always been friendly to me, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut about them about that. There's a lot of support for Red Bull, and with the South Ward, it's kind of one group. We attend different meetings and vote for different elected officials, but it's all one in the same.
So let's look at the history between these two clubs. Like I said at the beginning, they both began their journey in MLS against each other way back in 1996. So since then, across all competitions, LA Galaxy and Metro Stars, Red Bull New York have faced each other 51 times. And would you believe it? It's a clean split. 21 wins for LA, 21 wins for Red Bull, with 9 draws in between. So, and going into MLS Cup, it's like, well, okay, it's an interesting story. I mean, interesting history. The last time these two teams played each other was 3 years ago. And it was in 2021 season. LA Galaxy playing at home beat the Red Bulls 3-2, and it was it was like right after the COVID, right after the pandemic and things started to open up, so it was a very reduced crowd. But that's the last time these two teams played each other. I know back in the day, I got to meet because I had a press pass way back since '97, so I got a chance to meet Gio Savaresi when he was still playing with the Metros, and he was a really nice guy. Had no idea that he would go on to do the things that he's done with MLS, up until now. One of my favorite, I keep telling people, one of my very favorite, fondest memories of holding that press pass in those early years was I got to meet Roberto Donadoni when he was playing for the Metros, and he is still to this day one of my favorite interviews ever. Just a wonderful gentleman. We got to sit in the Metros dressing room, and we had a really nice conversation. He taught me how to kick a free kick, like where you able to make the ball go a certain way. He told me these wonderful stories from his time playing in Italia. And then, of course, there were some G's that ended up playing for both clubs, like Steve Jolly, Mark Semioli, and our dear El Tanque Hurtado, who I spoke with recently. and he told me that he's really looking forward to his MLS Cup. He's sad that Ricky Puig is not going to be there, but that having played for both clubs, he's hoping for a good match. But in the end, he's pulling for the LA Galaxy. um, so let's talk about the referee because hey, there's somebody's going to be officiating this match. So referee is a gentleman named Guido Gonzalez Jr. He sounds like some kind of creative player or a character from like GTA Vice City, but no, he's for real. Guido Gonzalez Jr. Assistant referees Kyle Atkins, Logan Brown. The fourth official is Izmir Pekmic. VAR is Yunus Marakic. I can't even pronounce his name. Assistant VAR TJ Sabloski and what is this? RAR Jose da Silva. Anyway, since 2018, Gonzalez Jr. Has done. He's officiated 97 MLS regular season matches, including, in addition to 4 MLS Cup playoff matches. Interestingly enough, he's only officiated 3 LA Galaxy matches, yielding a record of 1 win, no draws, and 2 losses. Never at home here at the Dignity Health Sports Park, but he has done 12 matches in total with Red Bull for 3 wins, 4 draws, 5 losses, including a record of 2 wins, 3 draws, and 3 losses away. Um, but you will remember Gonzalez Jr. because his last LA Galaxy match was the 3-0 California Classico win over San Jose Earthquakes at Stanford Stadium earlier this year on June 29th, where he handed out 1 yellow to San Jose, 4 yellows to LA Galaxy. Gonzalez Jr.'s last Red Bull match was a 3-2 loss versus Columbus Crew at Red Bull Arena on October 19th, 2024. He handed out 1 yellow to Red Bull, 3 to Columbus. In 2024, Gonzalez Jr. Is averaging 4.82 yellows per game, but he's only handed out 2 red cards and he has awarded 8 penalty kicks. Gonzalez Jr. was a MLS Referee of the Year nominee, and he also formerly refereed the 2024 MLS All Star Game, the 2023 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Final, the 2018 NWSL Championship Final, and the 2018 USL Championship Final. Having said all that, he has never officiated a match between LA Galaxy and Red Bull New York. So we got information on the ref. We talked
Oh, I can
about
give
the
you more
injuries.
information on the ref. I know the
Go
ref.
for it. Let's tell us, Bob.
Guido is originally from Totowa, New Jersey. He had been, as refs do, working his way up the ranks. And Empire Supporters Club, of which I am the all-time leading goal scorer of Empire Supporters Club in competitive play. We did kick-arounds at a place called Turf City in Wayne, New Jersey, right off Route 23. And every Friday night, we would get all ESC, and it would be ASC versus ESC, get the pennies out, let's go. And we would play, probably 4 years up until COVID. So 2000 and probably closer to 2014 through 2020, every single Friday, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And Guido was employed by Turf City and used to ref some of those games. He used to ref in that league. So Guido's seen me play. I've scored a goal in front of Guido before, and he is a New
That's
Jersey guy,
awesome.
and yeah, he had been where ESC had played all their friendly matches. That was one of the places. I assume that was a nighttime gig. You get paid in cash, and you go back to your car and drive away. So yeah, he's very, very familiar a guy for us. Just seems like a really nice, outstanding guy. Never really got to know him very personally. Calm. There's a lot of guys who like to push and shove in that league. More than one game got canceled more than halfway through. Games don't finish in that league all the time, and he'd always kept a cool head. So glad to see he's doing well. His name circles around every so often, but yeah, he does have a connection with Red Bull supporters, whether he knows it or not. Not like we were in his face about it or anything. That was a long time ago, and he just seems like an outstanding guy.
Well, now you could say that you played for an MLS Cup ref.
There you go. Yes, for sure.
So, Bob, here we go, man. This is where the rubber meets the road. Let's start with predictions, and then since you're our guest, Bob, you have the stage.
Yeah, so there's been one thing that's gone on, and I see someone in the Glass House Soccer saying I don't see conservative in these teams' vocabularies. Well, you should have watched the last 5 Red Bull matches, those whole playoffs, where they found out, hey, we can keep the other team from scoring, and we don't need to score 3 or 4 or 5 to win any match. I think that the advantage defensively goes to Red Bull. I don't think there should be any doubt anywhere in the league about that. It's just about putting this team on ice. I think Seattle did a good job at cooling off the offense of the Galaxy in the last match. Certainly, you don't want to play them after they scored 500 against Colorado Rapids. I think there's still balls going in the back of the net from the end of that matchup there. And the way Minnesota did not exactly coat themselves in glory, their back line in that matchup either. Red Bulls had, they've been scored on in one game so far this postseason, and that was 2-2 Columbus draw at Red Bull Arena that ended up in a penalty shootout. They shut Columbus out before that. They shut NYCFC out. They shut Orlando out. And those are some teams that are hard to play. NYCFC scores 3 goals every game at home. Or in Orlando, we know what they've done so far this offseason. I think it's a good matchup. Look, Columbus has good wingers that did not score. NYCFC, they have good everything that did not score. And Orlando, shutting down one of the best wingers in Major League Soccer, Facundo Torres in that match. I think that they match up really well. And people were asking me before. I think I was on a show live with you, Edgar, and they asked, who do you want if your team makes it? And I said, we want the Galaxy. That is what we want. We want to be able to shut them down. We want to shut Ricky Puig down. Obviously, things are going to change a little bit now. But I just think the matchup is so good. The one place that I think that Red Bull has the clear and obvious, besides defense, set pieces. Let's get the corner kicks. Let's get the set pieces going on. That's a huge phase of play that Red Bull practices. This is a study team. Sandro Schwartz is a book kind of guy. And I like what he said after the win. How are you going to approach this? Hey, it's a game. We prep for every game. We're going to learn what they do. We're going to learn, how we can attack them. And we're going to try to get a win. I like that a lot. If you look at Galaxy, where they've stumbled this year, it's been against defensive teams. Teams that Galaxy, beat Galaxy on the road. Dallas, Houston, Austin, LAFC. Those are defensive teams. Sounders, Charlotte got 0-0 draws. Defensive teams. They've been able to shut this team down when they're at full strength. And I think that I don't think we can underestimate the amount that Ricky Puig means to this offense. He is the go-to guy. He touched the ball more than anyone in Major League Soccer. And I don't think you could just say, we're going to swap someone else. No, this is a different Galaxy team than they were a week ago. And I don't think people are taking that quite as seriously as they need to. Red Bull can obviously put wingers on ice. Can we do it to 2 top-tier wingers at the same time? Well, that's the question we're going to need to find out. But I think they're going, to find the tape on that. They're going to see if that's a possibility. What can they do? What do they need to do in this match? And, I talked about this during one of the 12 times, Edgar, we spoke this past week. And it's aerials. It's playing out the back. It's these little opportunities that Red Bulls are going to jump on. Red Bull are second in the league with aerials, 528 aerial wins, second only to DC United. But if you take Benteke out, they're number 1. Galaxy, by comparison, 262 aerial wins. That's less than half, -4. It's a lot less. That is not a team who's winning air balls. They haven't needed to, but that's not a skill they offer. If you look at the individual players, Dylan, Sean, and Noah Isla, all top 15 in the league in headers won. Dylan Nealis, 75% of his aerials were won. That's the best in Major League Soccer. 81 total over the course of the year. And then Andre Reyes, who's only played 16 games, 47 aerials won. He's still top 50 with only half the games. He would obviously be up in the 90s, and he might be the second player in the air over the course of the season in all Major League Soccer. Why do I say this? Well, when we look at Galaxy, not only are they not winning aerials, they're not trying. Their lowest crossing percentage in Major League Soccer. That's not how they play. I don't need to tell you. You guys know that. You're cutting it on your feet. Maya Yoshida, impressive. He's 9th in the league in aerials won. After that, the next guy, Julian Ore, 168th in the league. That's a huge gap between guys who are winning air balls. It's just not something that's attempted. That's something Red Bull attempts very often. Someone said, oh, well, maybe they're going to. No, Red Bull, it's very easy to kick a ball in the air. I watch 4-year-olds do it every day, and that is part of the game plan. It's going to be let you guys play out the back because we're going to press. And if you're tired of playing out the back, every long ball we're going to beat you to. And I think that is the play style that Red Bulls are going to want to see happen. They're going to want to see LA Galaxy doing what they do, pass the ball around in their own half. Okay, you guys can do that all day. We'll let you, because those passes are going to get jumped. Seattle was so, man, they were scaring me running after these guys in the LA half of the field, and it looked like they were really close a whole lot of the time. Now you take out Ricky Puig, reaction time goes down maybe just a step. If Red Bull has a chance in this, and I do think they have a chance, it's going to be in the transition, in the in-between moments, set pieces, dead ball. That is where they need to take this team, and I think it is absolutely enough. If they can score one goal on a trade to play like that, and then maybe they trade one goal with Galaxy over the rest of the match, you're looking at a Red Bull win. And I think that is the game plan. It's going to be physical. It's going to be running. They're going to be trying to run your legs off. Go start a 35-year-old man in mid. Let's do that. Please do that strategy. I would love to see it. And the hard part is going to be not getting caught out of position on their own end, because Red Bull, while they are very good at defense, they are not the fastest players that you've seen. They are of average, John Pilkin, for everything he offers. Taking peck or paint still in a foot race is not something I want to see happen many times this next weekend. There's going to be tactical fouls. There's going to be a little pushing and shoving. This is not a dirty Red Bull team. They've cleaned up their act quite a bit from last year. And part of that is the maturing press. Last year, it was just run at the guy closest to you, and if you clip him, and that's fine. That's a strategy, too. We're not really doing that this year. It's a little more clinical than that. So, yeah, I think, the X's and O's, there is a game plan that Red Bull can put together that's going to win them this game. Whether they do, whether they can execute, maybe not. I don't know. I think that the odds are a little off. I think Red Bull maybe has a 35% chance, maybe 25% at a draw, 45, 50% advantage for the LA Galaxy. Notice we haven't talked about a home field advantage. Like, this is MLS Cup. This is wild. This is going to be crazy. I think that kind of goes above and beyond what a normal home match would be considered. And, losing your best player, losing your point guard, the guy who spreads the ball around, I don't think enough can be said about that. I think we're catching Galaxy at a good time, in an unfortunate time for them. And, I'm excited. We've spent 4 hours this week talking on different shows and different podcasts about each other, about how this happens. Like, I do want to be level. Like, I think that at best this is 50-50, 60-40 in Galaxy's favor. I'm just giving you the path that Red Bull can take to make it there. And I'm optimistic because they've shown 4 games in a row that this method can work.
No, obviously. And these matches, they're not played on paper. You have to go out there and play them on the field, and there's a lot of variables that go into it. Whether we've seen a good LA Galaxy team, or at least I have seen a good Galaxy team go out and look like they were going to put up a good fight in 1999. And then there was an injury to Robin Fraser earlier in the match. That should have been a card. And from that point on, DC United just completely took over that game, and the Galaxy ended up losing. So you don't know. You can't count your chickens until they're hatched. From the LA Galaxy point of view, I think it's a mix of excitement. Obviously, you're heading into MLS Cup, but also a sense of kind of fear, because you don't know what to expect with Ricky Puig out. Obviously, it's really sad that he's not going to be able to play after having such a fantastic season, making such a great name for himself, and practically maturing before our eyes and becoming a more well-rounded and elite player within the league. Uh, and now he's not there. He's not going to be there. So that's life sometimes, right? It's not always fair. So what does Galaxy do? We've seen, like I said, we've seen LA Galaxy do well without Ricky Puig. This was at a time when the team was still coming together. This was at a time when Gabriel Peck still had not made his own name and etched his own lore into Galaxy history. Since then, we have seen Peck's impact on his club. We've seen Joseph Paintsil come back from from like what it looked like was fatigue and maybe it's, some knocks, and he's really turned it up in the playoffs. We've seen Dejan Joveljic, who has flown low under the radar for most of the season, always make some good contributions and score some clutch goals. So um, that's one of the things that the club can do. You have tools in Diego Fagundes and Mark Delgado, Edwin Cerrillo. None of them are gonna step in and fill Puja's shoes. We can never state that enough. But these are good players in their own right, and these are guys that, as you know, as a man, giving an opportunity to step up in a big stage, you're gonna take that opportunity. We've seen Galaxy players do that in the past when Josh Saunders stepped in to replace an ailing goalkeeper. I can't remember his name right now. Sorry, but Josh Saunders stepped in. He did fantastic and ended up winning an MLS Cup. We saw John McCarthy do that for the neighbors next door when Crepeau went down with injury. So these are players that know what it takes to step up and these big situations. Greg Vanny, I'm sure he's gonna have his guys prepared. Whether Marco Roy starts or not, it's interesting because we did not expect him to start against Seattle, but there he was, right? Um, so that's another question. There's so many things that we don't know about. That Saturday morning, we look at the lineup and we're gonna have a clearer picture of what to expect. But for right now, we really don't know. But we just can look at the history of the LA Galaxy, especially in this particular year, and we know that they're a lot deeper than they've been in the past. So losing Ricky Puig, as terrible as it is not the end of the world, because you have Pinto and you have Puig, and then you have Doya and Joveljic up top, and you got that solid midfield. And then in the back, where the Galaxy has been hurt, they've found stalwarts in Johnny Nelson and Miki Yamane. Maya Yoshida, yes, he has his moment, but then you see who's paired up next to him now. It's Carlos Emiro Garces. And LA Galaxy, since they made him a starter in the middle of September, have not lost a game with him, with the exception of the decision day match, which they lost at the death. They've been undefeated with him. And I've been mentioning that, what a fantastic player is, rugged. He's more polished. He's quick. He's willing to throw a few shivs here and there, and just carry the ball up the field and clean up for his fellow defensemen. So Galaxy has all these tools, and then of course you have the X factor, Miguel Berry coming off the bench. I know people are probably laughing about it, but you never know. Miguel Berry could come in, and do something fantastic for this team, and then you can see all the candles with San Miguel on it being lit around the stadium. But this is MLS Cup. MLS Cup. Um, Enjoy it. Uh, Relish the anticipation leading up to the cup. Remember, drink responsibly so you can enjoy the match. If you see Metro supporters, or I mean, I'm sorry, Metro and Rebel supporters, be kind, be friendly. This is an opportunity that's very rare. We've never seen our two clubs face each other. Give
Just
them welcome
remember,
them
they're
into
all
our state.
probably from New Jersey. You got to be careful with those guys. Those New Jersey Blues,
Yeah.
we have certainly a lot of personality from those guys, but I think the coasts, we kind of get along pretty well. Listen, this was a rivalry. They called this the 1% rivalry because for a while we were the two teams spending money in Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll never forget my co-host Alex at Giant Stadium the first time Beckham came there. They brought a big bag of Monopoly money. And when Beckham ran out of the tunnel, because this is the old Giant Stadium, you had the big tunnel that the players ran through. They dumped a bag of fake money on Beckham in that one. So there is a little bit of a rivalry, a little bit of history here, besides just being two originals. And I can't wait for it, man. It's gonna be so great.
And obviously, this rivalry was brought back to the social consciousness with the Dodgers and the Yankees playing each other in the World Series. It's something that in Major League Baseball was foaming at the mouth to have for such a long time, right? So now we got LA Galaxy versus New York Red Bulls. So who's gonna win? I'm gonna circle back to that first match between both clubs, the one that I saw on Saturday, April 13th, 1996, in which LA Galaxy defeated the New York Metro Stars 2-1. I think that's going to be the final score. I think it's going to be a very, very tense match, kind of like the Seattle match, where neither club is going to really take too much of of an advantage over the other. I think they're both evenly matched, and it's going to be very difficult. New York is going to make things uncomfortable. It's going to make things ugly, and for a lot of people that go in there expecting Galaxy to completely annihilate them, that's not going to happen, especially with Ricky Pujao. So expect Galaxy to have to really work for this one. Like every one of these MLS Cups Galaxy has won. If they're going to win, they're going to have to pay the iron price. It's going to be difficult, and it's not going to be something that's going to be handed to them. And we know Red Bull's not going to roll over for them. But in the end, I think Galaxy is going to raise that cup. It's going to be 2-1. And I'm sorry, Bob, but like I've been telling you all along, if this was Red Bull versus any other team in the West, I'd be pulling for you guys 100%. Like I said, I have a soft spot in my heart for all the legacy clubs, and I've seen New York throughout the years. And in years when LA Galaxy was not in contention, I was, a part of me was always hoping like, hey, maybe New York, this is New York's year, right? I was there in 2008 when they went up against the Crew, and a lot of respect to my pals with the Crew, right, that support the Crew, but I was pulling for the Red Bulls that day because I wanted to see them win. I wanted to see them finally lift the cup, right? I mean, it's crazy for me to think that they're from New York and haven't been able to lift the cup, right? But that's just life, right? That's sports. But hey, Bob, thank you so much for joining me on this journey, right? This journey we've been through for like the last month or so. Tell everybody where they can find you on socials, Bob.
You can find me everywhere, mostly Blue Sky, but I still kick around on Twitter. Got to check that inbox every once in a while. At Bob V Soccer. You can find me there. You can search the Designated Pundits on your favorite podcast platform on YouTube, just about anywhere. Hey, I didn't get my final. I'm going to say 2-0 to the Red Bull because there's two possibilities. If Red Bull can get that one goal early, and then they're playing their style, and that's it. There's no 2-1 Galaxy. That's not a possibility. It's going to be 6-1 Galaxy because Red Bull's going to be throwing numbers ahead like you've never seen before. Because at the end, when that whistle is coming at the end of the match, you're going to have 10 guys running at the opposing goal. And, if you win by one, you win by a million. That's what I've always said. It doesn't matter. One last thing. Someone says Kardashians versus Sopranos bada bing. That's about 5 miles outside here. It's a place called Satin Dolls. They just opened up a dispensary next door for those who really want to bring this episode full circle there.
Well, as long as we don't hear an entire cheering section yelling out "Bing Bong" at the end of the match, I'm okay. Thank you so much, Bob. And
thank you for having me.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this year on News Across the Galaxies, the midweek show. Thank you to all the guests that we've had on here. And for everybody who's joined us, joined me and Bryant and all the other NAG boys, and I'm previewing all these matches. I know a lot of you come up to me before the matches or after the matches and tell me how much you enjoy this segment, how much you enjoy hearing from other podcasters. Well, we've gone on quite a journey, right? We've gone from like, hey, look at us. Whoa, woe is us, right? Woe is Galaxy, to like, oh my God, we are here on the edge of something fantastic. And then we see Bob coming over and we hear his story and the story of the Red Bulls and what they've been through. It all makes for a very fantastic, dramatic, wonderful, tasty MLS Cup match on Saturday. Please be careful, enjoy yourselves, party hardy, and if we lose, that's the way it is, right? But if we win, celebrate, baby, because there's no party like a West Coast party, because the West Coast party don't stop. But Bob, I gotta show you guys some New York some love. Wu-Tang for life, baby.
On NAGn.